I'm Eddie Matthews from the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce, and today we're talking about recreation, childcare, and other challenges, how these factors impact the workforce as this webinar series continues for the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce. And I'm thrilled to be able to welcome this morning from the Stratford and Area YMCA, Mimi Price. Hello, Mimi.
Good morning, Eddie. How are you?
I'm terrific. Nice to talk to you, and it's been a while since we've been able to speak and talk about what's happening at the Y, and so much has changed over the last 5 months or so. What was it like for you to have to tell staff and members that the Y was closing due to COVID?
Well, it's funny. At the time, it was a tough decision because we don't close the Y unless there's something really wrong. And in this case, the decision was made because we knew it was in the best interest of our members and our users not to be open. We know that if there's a snowstorm outside, people will still come into the Y. And so if we closed, that meant people would stay home and be safe. So while it was a tough decision, it was actually an easy decision in the end. The hardest decision we're making now is how to open.
So right now, the Y is not open, is it?
The Y right now is open for childcare and day camp only. We started doing emergency childcare a couple of months ago, and then have opened day camp. I think we're the only day camp operating in the city, because we know parents have to get back to work. It's part of getting our economy going again. So we made the decision to open day camp, and with the government limitations, we can only have 50 people in the building right now. So those are our day campers and our childcare children. And we have 50 right now. And then we have the staff on top of that. But we knew there was a need in the community, so we're responding to that need first.
Mm-hmm. Never has childcare been more vulnerable and more essential, I guess, than now, isn't it?
Exactly. You look at it, and when we first opened emergency childcare, it was for essential workers, for the children of essential workers, and it was, how do we do this right? Because we still had cases of COVID-19 in the area, and we were trying to be as safe as we could. And at the same time, how do our staff report to work? How does staff feel safe going to work? So a number of screening and precautions have been put in place to ensure that we're doing everything we can to be able to operate, to provide those services that families are needing.
So what does that mean? Is it more than just the acrylic partitions, the social distancing? What does that mean?
That means everybody is screened coming in. So children, staff, we all have to have our temperatures taken. Our staff are in full PPE for that, to administer that. Questions are asked. Every child in childcare midday is also screened for a temperature check. In day camp and in childcare, children, we're really conscious of what children are feeling and how they're feeling and what they're saying. And if they have symptoms, we start a protocol on understanding where the child has been, what's going on in the family. Because in some cases, children will have to be tested for COVID-19. And if they're not tested, then they'll have to self-quarantine for 14 days at home. So these are the things that are really, it's really strict around operating. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we take the precautions we take can enable families to continue to work and to have a normal life.
Don't you think it's ironic too that it's taken a public health crisis for the essential role of childcare to be brought to the forefront, especially with those at the YMCA?
Well, all the years that I've been with the Y, the childcare has changed so much. It's the one thing that's always changing. There's no constant in childcare. And this is the time when we talk about how important the early years are for children and for parents to have access to quality childcare. And for us, you know, we said, the government said you can only operate at half capacity. So we had to go back and ask all of our families if they needed care. And luckily enough, some parents weren't ready to have their children come back into care, into a group setting, and have elected to keep their children at home. And so this is a wonderful precursor for the education system when children have to return to school in the fall. What's that going to look like? So we're seeing a preview of this right now with childcare and day camp as well. But certainly childcare is on the bubble in terms of how is this working? Everybody's watching it, you know, making sure that, you know, no children are exposed to COVID.
Mm-hmm. Are you getting a different perspective when you're talking to the adults compared to when you're talking to the little kids about what COVID is all about and how it's affecting them?
Well, my little friend Malik, he's 3, and I, you know, he talked about the virus, and I said, well, Malik, how do we get rid of the virus? And he said, we have to be nice to each other. You know, and so kids know something's different because kids are asking me, why am I wearing a mask at the Y? We don't have children wearing the masks. The staff are wearing the masks indoors, and then of course we can take them off outdoors. But children sense something, but we also know parents are saying their kids really need to be around other kids. They've missed that social interaction, and that physical distancing thing, we can't do anything about it. Kids are kids, and they want to play, they want to make friends, they want to be with other kids. And all we're trying to do is make sure that the cohorts that we have to work in, so that's 2 staff and 8 children, that they're in their same cohorts all day long. So they don't interact with other cohorts. And as I say, we have 50 kids at the Y, but it's the opportunity to make sure that kids can be kids. They have to be able to play. They have to be able to be kids and not think, oh my goodness, there's this scary thing.
Well, it's that social interaction, and it's the simple things in life, like a simple hug or a handshake, and just to be able to greet one another. That's
exactly. Yeah, and like I've got hands on the heads of kids because that's the only thing we can do these days, and I can't even do that anymore. So you know, it's that sometimes the kids they just reach out and grab your hand, and it's like, oh boy. That's the hard part for us, right? It's that natural tendency for all of us.
Well, as we get to stage 3 now, what does this mean for the staff and the members, hopefully coming back soon to the YMCA, not only in Stratford, but St. Mary's?
Exactly. So what we're working on is how do we reopen now? So we've been moving fitness equipment around. So we have that 6 feet around every piece of equipment. Where we can't have that, we have partitions. And it's funny because some of the equipment we have has natural partitions in it. But it's also the cleaning that will have to be done. So, you know, we'll ask our members to clean the machine before they use it and after they use it. But we have one staff right now whose sole responsibility is to go around and clean the high touch points. So handrails, doorknobs, light switches, you know, partitions, sinks and taps and that sort of thing. And that will continue. The staffing for this is quite large in terms of what it means. You know, we can't just have the fitness center with nobody in it. We'll have to have people up there cleaning as well. And, you know, even in the change rooms, how do we do that properly? So, you know, a group goes in to swim and we've got to go in and clean it behind them so that, you know, if somebody else comes in, it's clean again. How does that work? So these are all the little nuances that we have to really work with. And then the staffing is, you know, as I say, I might be a screener one day, the next day I'm cleaning, and the other day I'm back at my desk doing my work. So it's, we all take on new responsibilities to ensure the safety of the people who use the Y.
These are the challenges with the Stratford YMCA, is the fact that you've got a fitness room, you've got a big gymnasium, you've got the pool, you've got other departments as well. So it creates a whole set of challenges for you and the staff, I would imagine.
Yeah, it does, Eddie, because it won't be what it was before. And it's the new normal, as I keep saying, because we thought the new normal was April and May, and then the new showed up. So, for instance, we're also washing all our walls 6 feet up, or 6 feet and below, because children will touch walls. So, it's that sort of thing. And then when you get into like a squash court or a racquetball court, it's one person playing, because you put two in there, the likelihood of them hitting or bumping into each other is, of course, very high. So what does that look like for our squash and racquetball players? And, what does it look like in an aquafit class when there's usually 40 women in there, 40 women and men, sorry. They won't be able to be that close together anymore. And, we know a lot of the people come to the Y for the social aspect. It's not just the physical, their friends are there. And we've been doing phone calls with a lot of our members over these past few months just to check in on them. And they say how much they miss their friends at the Y. And that's important to us.
You'll keep us posted about what's going to be taking place. Any timeline that you anticipate for this to happen?
Well, we will operate day camp until Labor Day weekend. So the earliest we would open is after Labor Day. But we also know that families are going to be trying to figure out school that week. So we don't want to complicate anybody's lives. So, our website and our Facebook page will be updated regularly to let people know what's happening. We are starting outdoor fitness classes next week, as an example.
Okay, that's good to know. The other big news, the YMCA's, and I hope I'm not using a wrong terminology, but are they merging, and what does this mean for the Stratford YMCA?
Yes, so we've been on a almost 2-year-long process of this to look at how best we better serve our communities and how we can serve more people. And the boards of directors of the YMCA, YWCA of Guelph, the YMCAs of Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, and the YMCA of Stratford-Perth decided in March that we would go forward in unification. And that will, while it was supposed to take place August 1st, it's probably going to happen around the beginning of September. Trying to do all this during a pandemic has been a little tricky, just because of the added work with everything else. So we're a little behind schedule, but what it means is that, and especially for Stratford and St. Mary's, it means that we will have more resources for us to do some of the programming that we really want to do. When you're a small organization, a small company, you have limited resources, and so we'll be able to use more resources. So, for instance, one of the things I'm working on is, and I'll probably be working on this till the end of the year, is a youth strategy that looks so from Wellington, Waterloo, and Perth County. How do we work with our youth, and how do we engage them, and how do we support them? And more than anything, how do we build them to be the leaders of tomorrow that we actually need today? So if we can do that sort of work, that's my responsibility for the next few months. And that is, I love youth, so that's how I started in the Y all those years ago. So for me, it's fantastic. But it affords us the opportunity to do better work for our community.
Is there staff at the Y, if people are calling and they've got questions about when is the Y reopening or how they can get their kids involved or what's going to be happening in the fall? Is there somebody at the Y?
Yep, we're answering the phones. I'm answering emails and things that, questions that come in through Facebook and off the website. We're doing all that work. Staff has mostly been working at home. I can tell you Alma has been at the Y every day since the closure. I've been at the Y every day except for 2 weeks when I tried to work from home and decided, no, this isn't going to work. So we've been painting, we've been cleaning, we've been fixing. So it's ready to open. It'll be ready to open when we know it's safe to open. And in the meantime, questions are being answered, phone calls are being answered. So we're making sure we're in touch with our users.
Okay. Well, the other thing that we'll have to work on is whether we'll have a Santa Claus parade, whether you and I will be commentating on it again. So we'll have to work on that for I guess, December.
I think a mask with a scarf over top is perfect for everybody.
That could work. That could work. Mimi, it's always nice to talk to you. And if people have any comments, any questions, they can contact the YMCA phone call or check the website too, correct?
Absolutely, Eddie. Thanks for the time today.
Always good to talk to you. Mimi Price joining us today on the Stratford District Chamber of Commerce, and I'm Eddie Matthews. There we go.